All right, let's just dive straight into this. I want you to think about what you've already done today. You've probably checked your smartphone, maybe you've been working on a computer, or you've interacted with a cloud service or some kind of AI tool, right? Billions of us do this every single day. Yet the one specific company responsible for actually manufacturing the physical foundation of almost all this technology is completely invisible to most of the world. So today, we're unpacking Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, better known as TSMC, and we're going to see exactly why so many experts consider it to be the single most important company in the global economy. So who really makes the chips inside your devices? I mean, we all know the famous brands that design them, but the actual physical manufacturing, that is handled almost entirely by one single entity, and that's TSMC. They are literally the invisible engine powering our modern digital economy, not to mention the most advanced military systems on Earth. To understand how they got this unbelievably powerful, we really have to rewind back to 1987 and look at the genius of TSMC's founder, Morris Chang. See, before TSMC came along, tech companies had to design and manufacture their own chips completely in-house. And you can imagine, it was incredibly expensive. Chang revolutionized the entire tech industry by creating what's called the pure-play foundry model. Simply put, he strictly separated the chip design from the physical manufacturing. By coming out and saying, hey, we're only going to manufacture chips, we will never compete with you on the design, TSMC enabled the rise of an entirely new fabless industry. It meant giants like Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm, and Broadcom could suddenly focus 100% of their energy on just designing better architectures and algorithms. And because TSMC standardized the design rules across all these massive companies, they locked in this incredible network effect. Once a company optimizes its chip architecture for TSMC's specific manufacturing process, trying to switch to a competitor is basically a financial nightmare. It permanently changed the landscape of tech. And the sheer scale of this business model has unlocked some absolutely unprecedented financial dominance. Thanks to massive economies of scale, TSMC's market capitalization is sitting at a mind-blowing $1.92 trillion. They bring in around $121.8 billion in revenue, with profit margins that are just hovering around an incredible 60%. But the thing is, they don't just sit on this cash. To protect that massive economic moat, TSMC reinvests heavily, and I mean heavily. We are talking about capital expenditures reaching $60 to $64 billion every single year. Just to put that into perspective for you, building a single modern fabrication complex, what they call a gigafab, costs roughly $28 billion. That is literally the financial equivalent of buying 2 modern naval aircraft carriers. It's an immense scale that creates a virtually unsurpassable barrier to entry for anyone trying to compete. But here's the catch. You can't just throw unlimited money at this and expect it to work. You have to completely master the physics of shrinking transistors. Pushing the boundaries of projecting features at the nanometer scale requires some seriously profound engineering. So to pull this off, TSMC relies on a deeply symbiotic partnership with European giants ASML and Carl Zeiss. At the same time, they're pioneering advanced packaging technologies, like CoWoS, which lets them stack and connect these tiny chips in 3 dimensions, literally squeezing out every last drop of performance. Which brings us to extreme ultraviolet, or EUV lithography. This is arguably the most complex engineering challenge in human history. To create the incredibly fine 13.5 nanometer light they need for modern chips, they literally vaporize metal. First, a pulse CO2 laser hits a falling droplet of tin just to expand it. Then, a second incredibly massive laser pulse hits it again to vaporize that tin into a plasma. And get this process happens inside a vacuum chamber 50,000 times every single second. And it gets crazier. That tin plasma reaches temperatures of nearly 220,000 degrees Celsius. That is almost 40 times hotter than the surface of the sun. All of this unbelievable energy and precision is happening just to capture a tiny fraction of usable EUV light. That light is then bounced across flawless mirrors manufactured by Zeiss, allowing them to print incomprehensibly small patterns onto silicon. Naturally, this level of engineering mastery has kicked off an intense global semiconductor race. If we look at the battle for sub-3 nanometer architectures, it is basically a 3-way sprint right now between TSMC, Intel, and Samsung. As the whole industry transitions to a new transistor architecture known as gate-all-around, it hasn't been entirely smooth sailing. Samsung, for example, is currently estimated to be struggling with yields right around 40 to 50% on their latest process. Now,
Intel, on the other hand, has made some pretty significant strides. They've actually resolved some critical wafer-to-wafer variability issues on their 18A node, which has stabilized their defect densities. And this has allowed Intel to support about 30,000 wafer starts monthly. Even so, TSMC is still dominating the industry globally. Why? Because they have managed to perfectly balance yield maturity with just an absolutely immense production scale. Right now, we're actually witnessing a massive strategic split in the industry. TSMC is taking a highly pragmatic approach. They are choosing to extend the life of their existing standard EUV machines by using advanced multi-patterning techniques, which really saves on costs. Intel, in total contrast, is taking a massive financial gamble. They are aggressively adopting the next generation of machines, the high-end EUV scanners, very early on. These machines cost an astonishing $410 million each. So Intel is basically betting on a structural scaling advantage, while TSMC is prioritizing capital efficiency and proven high yields. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute from physics to geopolitics, because frankly, you cannot talk about TSMC without talking about Taiwan. Since TSMC produces over 90% of the world's advanced logic chips right there on the island, it has created a very real strategic phenomenon that analysts call the silicon shield. This is the reality that any kinetic conflict in Taiwan would immediately freeze the global AI ecosystem and paralyze consumer electronics worldwide. This immense economic interdependency means TSMC is deeply intertwined with international defense and global stability. Relying on a single geographic location is an incredible risk, and the world knows it. So under pressure from governments globally, TSMC is now heavily diversifying its physical footprint. Backed by massive state subsidies, they are currently constructing major manufacturing hubs around the world. They're building in Phoenix, Arizona, to serve high-performance computing, in Kumamoto, Japan, and in Dresden, Germany, to help secure the automotive and industrial sectors. But even with this expansion, TSMC faces a gauntlet of compounding challenges. We're talking geopolitical risks, immense capital costs, that critical dependence on ASML's technology we mentioned, and increasing competition from Intel and Samsung. Concurrently, the highly concentrated nature of the semiconductor supply chain makes it a very effective tool for international export controls. US and Dutch policies have restricted China's access to ASML's advanced systems. In response, China has launched a massive $47.5 billion state-backed effort towards semiconductor sovereignty, essentially attempting to build an entirely independent supply chain. This includes SME developing a domestic scanner and Huawei reverse engineering components to build their own laser-induced plasma EUV prototype. But as analysts are quick to point out, there is a massive gulf between a laboratory prototype and real commercial viability. While it is a verified reality that Chinese engineers have demonstrated they understand the core physics at 13.5 nanometers in laboratory settings, industry experts and strategic analysts project that the extreme engineering challenges involved, things like thermal dissipation and sub-nanometer mirror alignment, mean they are unlikely to reach high-volume commercial EUV production before 2028 to 2030. So when you look at TSMC's unique blend of multi-decade process engineering experience, their astronomical financial scale, and their incredibly tight integration with the entire global tech ecosystem, it really begs the question, could any company realistically replace TSMC right now? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so drop a comment below and let us know who, if anyone, you think could actually challenge their dominance. Also, let us know which company you would like to see us feature next. Thank you all so much for watching this explainer. If you enjoy making sense of the complex worlds of business, finance, technology, and economics in a simple and engaging way, please make sure to subscribe to Market Plainly. And remember, while most people will never directly go out and buy a TSMC product, nearly every piece of modern technology you touch exists because of their extraordinary manufacturing capabilities. Make sure you tune in next time for the next part of our Business Empire series. We are going to be exploring BlackRock, the company behind everything. We'll be diving into how the world's largest asset manager uses the trillions of dollars under its management to exert staggering influence over thousands of the world's biggest companies and global financial markets. It is absolutely fascinating, and you won't want to miss it. See you then.